Welcome to Whistleblowers in partnership with Wix Trade Pro.
Hello and welcome to Whistleblowers. Gordon Smart here, joined as ever by Mark Clattenburg and Ian Ladyman. We will be answering some of your questions today and continuing with our all-time 11. Right, here's the first one. John says, who's the most talented person in their craft that the world has ever seen? Mark Clattenburg.
No, are we talking any sport? No.
Sorry.
Yeah, Mark Clattenburg the rest. But any sport, or has it got to be football?
And anything. It's I think it's open enough for
anything.
You to yeah.
I love golf. So therefore, I'm going to say Rory McIlroy. I think mentally that what he did recently at the Masters and how he, everybody, thought he would choke, and he had that, that mental block, even though, he's won so much, and how it meant to him. I just felt like as a top sportsman, the way he hits the ball, the way he delivers everything, for me, he's certainly top craft in golf.
Good answer, yeah. And I'll tell you a little story. I did this, we did the crossbar challenge with Rory McIlroy, right? So 150 yards with a full-size set of goals set up, and the ambition was to try and hit the crossbar. How many shots do you think it took Rory McIlroy to do it?
One.
Oh, eight
One.
shots. 8 shots.
8.
He had a 2-iron, right, for any golf fans. He had a 2-iron off the back foot, and he was just punching it, fizzing it and I'm standing next to him, right? And he just said, he moved his hands on the grip 6 inches above, moved his hands up the grip a little bit, and it was about 2 inches below. And you could see him calibrate his hands on the grip and the position of the ball in his stance. And it took him 8 shots just to sort of finesse what he was doing, and he hit it flush, square off the crossbar. I was there all day with a 7-iron. And didn't get close.
Didn't reach.
It was it was amazing to watch. When you see that level of talent and skill, it's magical to behold. Go on, Ian, who's yours?
Well, I've said to you before, haven't I? I think I've said to you before that is one of the things about golf, is that we all think to ourselves as kind of failed footballers, oh, if that was me, I could always, if it was my day, if I was lucky, I could have pulled off that diving header. Go and stand behind a driving range at the Open, as I'm fortunate enough to be doing in a couple of weeks in Portrush. Go and stand behind a driving range at the Open and just watch people do things that you could not do if you had a run-up, and, you just can't. It's extraordinary. But, Mark Clattenburg, how can you sit there and talk about the greatest person you've ever seen at their craft and choose a golfer and it not be Tiger Woods? That's just nonsense, mate. I don't understand.
No, but but it's I'm talking about my year. I watched Tiger Woods.
That young.
Yeah, no, you're allowed your opinion. I just think for me,
of course,
what Rory's done,
Is that what you're saying?
No, I would never say that, because it'd be all on majors and what you've won. I just think mentally, the mental strength and everything that's shown around it, I just think for my generation to watch that recently was incredible.
So I'm not, I did sit on the train and think, should I say Morrissey? But I thought, I'm going to really sit there on this podcast and talk for 10 minutes about the Smiths, but not, are we? So with honourable...
I'd love to do that.
Well, I thought you might, by the way. That might be probably a different podcast. But just with honourable mention to Morrissey, Tiger Woods, look, we're all golf geeks on this podcast. We know that. And I think the thing to me that spells out Woods' absolute genius is actually not so much what happened during his career, but what's happened since. And what I mean is, if you look at the list of players, I've just scribbled a few down here, that have come along since Woods' body started to fail him, and therefore he had to step back, and there was a vacancy there for somebody else to come and stand on the top of that hill for 5 or 6, 7 years. And they've all come along and tried. Spieth, Johnson, Koepka, McIlroy, Thomas, even Jason Day, and none of them have managed it. Shuffler's trying it now. None of them have managed it for more than a year or so at a time. And that shows how difficult it is to dominate in that world. And Tiger stood at the top of that hill for 15 years. And the stats around his performance are extraordinary. We all thought that Tiger, when he first came onto the scene, was about how far he could hit it. And actually, he did it a long way with that equipment at that time. If you look at Tiger on the putting green for that amazing decade, he missed from within 8 foot about once in 2 seasons or something. That guy is a genius. He won a US Open on one leg. He came back and won a US Masters when he had no right to. Flawed in so many ways, but for sporting talent, never been anybody like him.
I love this question, right?
Go on, Mark. Sorry, Gordon. Just one more. Just when I was thinking about other sports, I remember the generation of tennis, for example. You know, you had Nadal, Djokovic, Federer, Murray. That was incredible sport to see 4 top sportsmen fighting for them top spots all of the time. And it's interesting now that even though they've gone, now it's a new generation coming through, and they share the Masters, they share the major championships now, because people specialists in certain things, grass, clay, and everything else. But you know, sport in them days with your golf and your tennis was incredible to see. Even Formula One was incredible then, with all the, you know, the drivers dictating, you know, and you know, having great cars and great drivers. Sport then was incredible many years ago.
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I've been thinking about this so much. And you mentioned tennis, right? I'm working with Nick Kyrgios at the moment, and he makes that point. He said, imagine playing in an era when you were up against Nadal, Djokovic, Federer, and Murray. He said, individually, in any other era, they would have dominated that sport. Incredible athletes, incredible performers, but mental strength as well, outstanding. I also admire any sport you're on your own for 4 hours, competing with the elements, the physicality, the skill, all of that. The combination's amazing. And again, I went off down a rabbit hole thinking about Formula One as well. Like, if you've ever watched that lap that Ayrton Senna does with the technology that was available to him in the car at the time, or any of those drivers, the danger that was involved, to see the skill that's incredible. The one for me that caught me, and it's not my final choice, is Pete Hickman, who did the Isle of Man TT. And I got to watch him commentate on one of his own laps, like a record-breaking lap at the TT, and the talent and bravery involved to keep a motorbike going at that speed when one tiny movement of the handlebars means you're dead. That and he's recovering from a terrible injury at the moment, so we wish him well. But that is a level of talent that none of us can really comprehend. The thought of going on a motorbike at that pace is wild.
Whether that's about, and I'm not saying it's not talent, of course it is, but whether that's about talent as much as it is about nerve.
Yeah.
Because you could maybe argue that there would be other people who would be able to do it, but they would just never have the courage or the nerve to be able.
But the question
to
was the most talented person in their craft. That's amazing. But the one I've gone for, because I thought you might go for golf, actually. I thought you might go for something conventional. I'm going to choose a guy called Danny MacAskill, who up close is the most incredible athlete I've ever seen. So what he can do on a BMX bike is just so beyond talent that it's almost difficult to put into words. But if ever you get the chance, just look Danny MacAskill up and see some of the stuff he's done. But to perch yourself on a railway line on a BMX and jump to the other one without falling off, I don't think any of us could master that after practicing for 2 years. But he doesn't just do that. He does that on the top of a mountain, or he'll do it, you know, in some ridiculous pressure environment. The skill, the balance, the talent, it is just beyond words.
I was convinced you would go for a musician or something like a chef or something. I was absolutely convinced you wouldn't do sport. I don't know why. I just thought Gordon will come left field here.
I thought I'd have to go for sport, but you know, God, it's another podcast, isn't it? When you go down the other one. But amazing.
Yeah, if there's one person in this room who hasn't got time to do another podcast, it's probably you.
The real answer is probably a heart surgeon, isn't it, or a neurologist or something. Right. Tony asks, "What's your favourite sport outside of football?" Ian Ladyman first.
Very quickly, rugby league. I'm a rugby league geek. I was born in Wigan. I didn't play rugby league at school because nobody did, weirdly. Didn't do rugby league at my school. Didn't watch it really until I was about 30 years old. Got into it when my mum and dad started going. Became a Wigan Warriors season ticket holder for a while. Haven't got my season ticket these days. Family life has taken over. But still watch as much as I can on the TV. Love the sport. Love the ethics of the sport. Yeah. Love the rawness of the sport. Love what Wigan Warriors, how they represent the town, that in other ways hasn't always got anybody to speak up for it. Love the attitude of the players, love the honesty of the game, and love the communal feel of it. Yeah, for me, rugby league.
Do you know, I love that you've said that, because when I was a kid, even in Scotland, it wasn't a sport that we were taught or played, but watching Martin Offiah, Ellery Hanley, Sean Edwards, those performances, I just seem to remember it being a glorious summer's day at Wembley and seeing those. But it's such an amazing bit of physicality.
It's amazing. It's interesting how many footballers gravitate to watching it. A lot of the United boys of the era that I covered the club, like Rooney, Carrick, Giggs, of course. Ryan's dad was a rugby league player, but Rooney, Carrick, Giggs, Stuart Pearce is obsessed with Warrington Wolves, as we know. I think Anana has been to watch Wigan this year. I know Wigan have had Alex Ferguson in to do team talks before, but look, it's a minority sport. It's always pushing at its own boundaries in a way that I sometimes wonder whether it needs to. I actually think rugby league could probably spend a bit of time looking after its core support more than it does trying to expand into Canada and Wales and weird and wonderful places where it's been before. But I love the bones of it, and I love the fact that when I sit down to watch my team on a Friday evening, I've no dog in the fight. I don't work in rugby league. No wish to work around rugby league.
Palate cleanser for you, isn't it?
It's just my team. It's just my team.
Go on then, Mark. What about you?
And just go back to rugby league and the play the Magic Weekend in which stadium? One of the best places in the world.
Well, they added it. They went to Ellen Road last year, but they've added it to St James's Park.
Well, they've gone back to St James's.
I've been to it, and that's the best venue for it.
St.
It's the best venue for it, simply because it's 5 minutes from the train station, and there's about 12 top-class boozers within 2 minutes walk of the stadium. It's
you said 16 last week.
Four of them have closed down in the last 7 days.
He's banned from 4 of them.
It's a tough time for the licensing.
Found out he worked at the Daily Mail and they're like, you're not welcome back.
That's the best venue for Magic Weekend, St James's Park by a mile.
Brilliant. Yeah. Go on then, Mark. What about you? Favourite sport outside?
It's golf, of course. And actually, recently I won my first tournament in about a year, so I picked up a nice €80 prize money. But it's one of them games you can play badly, and then you play one good shot, and it gets you back the next week. Yeah. You never think, well, I'm gonna finish this. I'm gonna put the clubs away. It's like riding a bike and you fall off. Golf has got you. It's like an addiction where you can, like I was playing badly yesterday, and then you just play one great shot, which puts you within a couple of foot of the pin. You're like, oh, I've got this back again. So I'm thinking, I'll keep playing again. And it's just week after week, I've got that golf addiction, which I'm not the best at it, but it just gets us out of the house. And you know what? You go out for 4 hours into the nice air, and you're in a different world. And it's not just about golf. You're talking to your friends, you're having a bit of crack, and just that whole environment of being out there without any distractions. No mobile phones is great.
I convinced myself during lockdown that I'd cracked it. Having played golf pretty averagely since the age of 15, I convinced myself during lockdown that I cracked it because I was watching all these YouTube golf instruction videos, going out in the back garden with one of those little balls with the holes in that only fly kind of 5 yards. I'm thinking, I've done it, I've cracked it. But of course, we all know as soon as you put a proper ball down in front of you, all that goes out the window.
I tell you what was a nightmare about COVID, or just after COVID. Remember when the golf courses opened back up again? Because I would always tell my missus, I would say, golf's always 5-6 hours, because you'd always have an hour in the bar afterwards. Yeah. And it would run out. And you're like, well, how does golf take so long? Why is it taking 5 and 6 hours? With lockdown, it was a nightmare. They opened the golf courses up. It was taking 3 hours to play around the golf. So I used to sit in the car for 2 hours because there was no bar open because it was COVID. So you had to sit outside for 2 hours because I couldn't think. I could say that I've been only 3 hours for a round of golf.
I thought you were going to say the worst thing was that your missus started playing.
No, definitely not. Definitely not.
Participation's gone up in golf probably as a result of that.
What about you, Gordon? What about you?
Without getting too emotional about it, golf probably saved me in lockdown because I lost my voice for 7 months. I couldn't speak. I just played golf all the time, and I absolutely loved it. It was so good for my head, and it was magic being in the elements as well. And in Scotland, very blessed to have so many good golf courses where I live. But I would answer this question differently because I love playing sport, and if I could have my way, all I would do is play sport. All the different sports I could get I just love it. I hate having to work. It gets in the way of playing sport. So playing sport, the two things for me would probably be outside of football, golf, and skiing. I love skiing. But to watch, it has to be boxing for me because the admiration I have for men and women to stand up there and put their life on the line, the physicality, the strength, the endurance, the talent, the skill, the composure required not to lose your rag. And, I've tried a couple of times to spar, and, the minute your ears start ringing when you get caught with a punch, I just don't know how they do it. And also, like we talked about the difference in the noise when a professional player strikes a golf ball or when a badminton player hits a shuttlecock, that the professionalism and the talent and that noise. But when you hear Josh Taylor landing a body shot and you watch a man crumble to his knees, you just think I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that. So for me, it's got to be boxing. Unbelievable talent.
Excellent.
I've never sat ringside in all my years as a sports journalist. I've never sat ringside, and I need to.
Yeah, when you see the blood fly from somebody's
I need
faces,
to,
or a gum shield hits the crowd, it's unreal. Unreal. Right, Joe asks, if you want a free trip anywhere in the world tomorrow, where would you go other than Newcastle, Mark Clattenburg?
It certainly wouldn't be Sunderland then. No, I would go to New York. I absolutely love the place. I love watching American sports. I had the chance to watch basketball. I went to watch ice hockey, and I just love the way the Americans do the sport, how they get the fans engaged. You know, it's not just watching sport; it's an event, and I just love, you know, American way of life. I love the subway. I love the different seasons as well. So it's always a place that I love going.
New York, there we go. Ian.
Totally agree with you about that American sport. Whenever I've been to America in this line of work, covering pre-season tours of things, always goes to the baseball. It's always baseball season. Always go to the baseball. Love going to those big NFL stadiums where people like United and Liverpool used to play pre-season games. Love just standing in those arenas and trying to imagine them full on a NFL night. So yeah, I mean, I get you on that one. For me, very simple. I'm a bit of an animal lover, and I've always said to myself since I was a younger man, that when I got married, I would go on a safari as my honeymoon. I've never got married. At some point, we will get married, but myself and Vicky are still not married. So I'm beginning to wonder whether I'm going to have to kind of reshuffle that a little bit, because I still haven't been on a safari. Now, obviously, I have a family, so I think if I rejig that holiday now, it would probably be a few days in Cape Town, South Africa, do the garden route up to Port Elizabeth. Wine regions, then fly up to Joburg, week on safari. Hopefully, at my age now, a posh one if I could afford it. One of those ones where you kind of just sit there and wait for the animals to come to you while you have your breakfast. Yeah. And that would be it for me. Always wanted to do a safari, and here I am, 55 years old. Still haven't done it.
You've got to do it. I feel really lucky, right, where just after COVID, I don't know if you know this, boys, but I was involved in the whiskey industry. I had a whiskey called Copper Dog, and we did a 12-week tour of America, East Coast to West Coast, and I really got to see America. But the one city that stood out for me was Austin, Texas. It's famous for its music, right? South by Southwest Festival. When I arrived, checked into the hotel, walked into the nearest pub, and ZZ Top were just playing to just gig, and I thought, this is epic. Went down the street, watched another 3 bands, and then I went to see Austin FC. It was a packed stadium. Actually, the football, I thought I could have probably put a shift in playing for them, but Matthew McConaughey was out warming up the crowd. There's this huge sort of Latin element to the crowd. The atmosphere was great. The pubs were great. It was a young city. I think it's about 70% female. It was an amazing city with a vibrant young community, and it just felt alive, and I felt alive when I was there. But actually, to be strict with the question, anywhere in the world tomorrow, I feel like I need a wee break, so it would probably be Tuscany to lie by a pool.
Break from us. Is it right, and you'll know this, is it right, the 3 members of ZZ Top, obviously for younger listeners who may not be aware of them, three-piece, Two of them with huge beards down to their waists. Mm-hmm. Is it right that the drummer's surname was, the bloke without a beard was Beard?
Yes,
that's true. Yeah, that is true. Yeah. Right, I'm just checking that is true.
I think there's only 2 members left as well. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, anyway. And by the way, anyone out there who wants to give me the perfect safari itinerary, please let me know.
Right, here we go. Ross asks, how significant is the issue of diving and damaging the sport's reputation? Mark Clattenburg, you have to answer that first.
Yeah, I think it's slightly changed over the last few years because VAR's certainly, cleaned the game up, because I think players now have that, knowing that if they do simulate, most of the time VAR is going to correct it. It was certainly a massive problem when I was a referee, that players would certainly, look to see the contact and go down. And it was so difficult with the speed of the game, really difficult to see it in a split second, that a player dived. And I had a story, and it was a semi-final of a playoff, and it was QPR against Wigan. And James McLean went clean through. They were winning 1-0. Second leg, you know how important them games are, because they have huge repercussions to try and get into the final, ready for the Premier League. And he rounds the goalkeeper, and he goes down. And I runs into the situation, and I had a really good position, and I give him a yellow card. And you know what he said to us? He said, Mark, I don't care that I get a yellow card. He said, if I give a penalty, you would have been destroyed, and I only get a yellow card. It means I'm not getting sent off. And I thought, you know what? Players should get sent off. If they clearly cheat to win, players should be sent off. Or worst case, they should have a panel that should deal with it the next day, and they should be given a retrospective punishment of 1 game, 2 game, or 3 games. Because for me, it's a huge problem in football. And you know, players, they used to laugh at each other when they did it, but the person who used to take the consequence of a dive and the referee give it was the referee. He would be the one that got abused. He would be the one that was hated for it. But the players used to laugh about it, and you think it's not a laughing matter because you're cheating each other. And when a player used to cheat, I used to say to them, it's your problem, not mine. You're the one that are cheating each other because, you know, you're mates, but they didn't care. All they cared about was winning football matches.
I think in sport, there's fewer worse things you can be called in sport than a cheat.
Yeah.
Whichever sport it is that you play. I'm not sure in football it maybe carries quite the resonance that it should. But it's interesting. Chris Sutton, who I used to do the It's All Kicking Off podcast with, used to say that often that there should be retrospective punishments for diving, just like there are for other offences. To answer the question, Gordon, I don't actually think. I think football has greater sins that it maybe should worry about these days than diving. That's quite a sad thing to say. One of my hobby horses, as we know, found abusive language. I would try and tackle that first. And some of the rules of the game are letting it down as much as what the players do. Diving remains a problem, probably with you, Mark, probably not quite at the top of my list these days.
There we go. As a man who's chosen a 4-4-2 for my Dream 11, I think you might know where I stand on this. Total traditionalist, can't stand diving. I hate the example it sets.
Yep.
And I think also it makes refereeing the game much easier if everybody's honest. Because if somebody goes down and it's authentic, the right decision will be made. But if there's a question mark about the authenticity of that incident, then it's going to affect the refereeing. So
it's back a little bit to what we talked about when we were talking about rugby league earlier. Yeah, I'm not saying that there's no gamesmanship in rugby league. I'm not saying there's no gamesmanship in rugby union, but there's certainly much less of it.
Absolutely. Right, if you want to get involved, you can email whistleblowers@dailymail.com. You can head to our socials as well on X, Blowers Pod, TikTok, Whistleblowers Podcast, Instagram @WhistleblowersPod. Right, that means that we've reached the stage of the podcast where there's some, I'm going to say, lukewarm DIY taking place.
Rather than lukewarm conversation, which it usually is.
Some tepid DIY and tepid punditry. We're going to get cracking with the next step of the Wix table build. Now, we had Lewis Steele on the show last time. Did a pretty good job. Are you feeling better, by the way? Shows how much we care about Ian. Are you all right?
I had a bit of COVID last week. When I say a bit of COVID, it's all it was. It was a bit of COVID, and I'm fine.
He's back. So we made the poor Lewis, put 4 stools together for us. His father was a joiner, and he didn't let the family down, I think it's fair to say, and he did us a turn coming in. So, Ian, you're next up. I think obviously Mark's not here today. We've got an empty shirt sat next to us. He's somewhere else. But would you mind doing the honours in the next stage of this process?
For those of you who don't watch this show on YouTube, and I obviously know there are millions of you that do, I can't quite describe what it is that's in front of me, apart from it just still looks like loads of differently, randomly assembled pieces of wood. But here we go.
Jenga.
So, yeah, it does actually. Right, earpiece is coming out.
Right, the table has to go in order. So what we've done some stools. I think it's the table now that you need to get in order, Ian. So unclip yourself and give it a spin. Okay,
saying goodbye to microphone.
Right, so Mr. Ladyman, who's dressed like a joiner today.
What's going on about my I've never seen a joiner dressed like I am.
So he's got baseball boots on.
Right,
so
go,
he's an American joiner.
Here we go.
Right, here we go. He's got. Don't put your back out, Ian. Oh my God.
Got any kind of insurance?
I know. He's a man of a certain vintage.
Easy. Planks of wood and one big northern plank. Put them together.
Please pick that up from your knees and not your back, Ian.
Bend down.
There we go. That was it. The legs lifted it. He's done. Yeah, there we are.
He's got a table, guys.
Do you know what? We don't even need a spirit level there.
Table.
Mark, can you see that from where you are?
It's absolutely brilliant. It was well made, well put together, and I think, Ian, you've done a magnificent job.
Time now to continue with our all-time 11. Now, it was left-backs last week, resulting in some rather bizarre teams. To refresh your memories, Mark Clattenburg has Peter Schmeichel in goal, Kyle Walker at right back, a centre-back pairing of Pepe and Vincent Kompany, and Paolo Maldini on the left. Ian's got Buffon, Phil Neal, Vidic and Alan Hansen in the centre, while Ashley Cole completes his back four. Pretty impressive. I've got Neville Southall in goal, Cafu at right back, Maldini and Baresi as an Italian-themed central defensive pairing, and to represent the Tartan Army, I've got Andy Robertson as my marauding left back. Now, this is the response from our good listeners so far. Steve says 2 words, Roberto Carlos. I mean, I think we can all agree.
Lewis had him, didn't he, last week?
Yeah, Lewis chose Roberto Carlos.
Yeah, Lewis had him.
Fair enough. Sarah says, I'm glad Mark's finally picked someone with a decent haircut. And that's got to be Paolo Maldini, Mark. Best haircut you've seen in football, Mark?
Myself.
The mirror.
What about, I thought you've modelled yourself on Shamak at Arsenal, remember him?
You remember that?
Yeah, remember that? An absolute best haircut in football, Ian?
Let's go quickly. The David Luiz mad perm wasn't the worst.
The Valderrama.
Not sure I'm going to carry that one off, but David Luiz perm.
I did like the Stephen Ireland one when he was at the old.
Which one?
Let me ask you this question differently, Mark. What's the best hair transplant in football?
No comment.
Okay. Tom says Kenny Sampson. Anyone?
Aye. Very good former
Arsenal,
England fullback, Crystal Palace fullback. Yeah, good shout.
Famous for his thighs as well, wasn't he?
Yeah, big thighs. Yeah, he's had a difficult time post-career, Kenny, but battling on.
Right, we're moving into the midfield now, right? And I am sticking with the traditional 4-4-2. So for the traditionalists, we're looking at a right midfielder. So Ian, who would you choose in the right berth of whatever configuration you're choosing?
Oh, so it's never a good thing to just ignore what the host of a podcast just asked you. But I'm going to have to, because I did say to Henry, our producer, beforehand, if I'm not doing 4-4-2, if I'm doing 4-2-3-1, it makes sense for me to do my holding midfield players first. He said, okay, do your holding players. So I'm really sorry. Is that? Can we do that?
Go on then.
No. I was told 4-4-2.
Is that? No, you don't have to do 4-4-2. You don't have to.
Oh, no. I'll have to choose. No, go on then. Go on.
Let's wait for a judgment from Henry now. Henry, can we proceed with different formations?
You do whatever you want, he says. That's the level of production on this podcast.
I'll put another goalkeeper in.
You do whatever you want.
So I'm going to plough out. Okay, I'm going with 4-2-3-1. So I'm going to have the first of my. I have a bit of an obsession in football about the holding midfielder.
Yeah.
I just think it's so important.
Love it.
Always has been, but particularly in modern football, where formations are different, it's so important. And the best one that I've ever seen is still playing. He's 36 years old, I think. Sergio Busquets, the great Barcelona and Spanish holding midfield player, still playing for Inter Miami. Look at these numbers. 481 league appearances for Barcelona, 143 caps for Spain, 9 La Liga titles, 3 Champions League wins. I was at 2 of those against Manchester United. 1 World Cup, 1 Euros.
Yeah,
I mean, if you wanted to have a guy to win the ball, keep the ball, shield the ball, pass the ball sensibly and productively over 5 and 10 yards, he would be your guy.
Would you pick Claude Makélélé ahead of him?
Well, if I would have, and I wouldn't.
Didier Deschamps?
Huh?
Didier Deschamps?
Well, just remember that if I'm going to play 2, you never know. You might have next to him. But I just think I used to look at that great Spain team. I was really lucky to cover them when they won the Euros and then when they won the World Cup in South Africa in 2010. I watched a lot of that great Barcelona team, and people used to go on about the players that we know, the great players that we know, the creative players that we know, Xavi and Iniesta and David Villa, and then David Silva, and obviously for Barcelona, Lionel Messi. But that guy was like glue, and I would, that guy would die for you.
I went to see Inter Miami last year.
He'd die for you before he gave the ball away. That lad.
I couldn't take my eyes off him.
Yeah. Oh, but I can't believe he finds that league too difficult. Even at his age.
He had a cigar on. It was beautiful to watch, though. Just he was so efficient in his movement. You could tell he played 490 games for Barcelona.
Yeah.
What a player! Amazing. Yeah. But bearing in mind, Messi and Suarez were playing, and I was watching Busquets.
Well,
I think that tells you something.
Very good shout.
Definitely.
Says a lot about me. Go on then, Mark.
I'm going to go 4-4-2 just to be with Gordon, because I don't like defensive midfielders. I want to go out all attack. I was brought up under Kevin Keegan's era at Newcastle, where nobody cared about defending. We just wanted to score more goals than you. So I'll keep with that philosophy, and I'm going to go with, on the right-hand side, because I want to get attacking, and I'll go with Luis Figo. Luis Figo was, for me, one of the most Rolls-Royce players, just made it look easy. He was so talented, won many things. And I just think he will give us that creative side to me midfield, because I'll have, the next weeks I'll talk about my other midfielders, but he'll just give us that on the right hand side. You could talk about George Best, David Beckham. There's lots of great players, but I want to stay with Luis Figo on the right hand side.
Just talking about me again, I was at the Nou Camp, let me get this right, the day that Figo came back to play there for the first time for Real Madrid, who we know he defected to, the Pig's Head on the pitch. It was extraordinary. Steve McManaman said afterwards that he'd refused to sit next to him on the team bus, where he normally did. He'd refused to sit next to Figo on the team bus on the way into stadium because of what he knew was going to be coming towards the windows. I think the president of Madrid told him that he wasn't to take corners for his own safety because that was too close to the side of the pitch. Normally when you go to a football game and someone gets booed, and you think, oh, this is going to be amazing, and it lasts for about 5 minutes, and then the game gets going and everybody gets bored. They didn't get bored that day. Yeah. Every time he touched the ball, the decibel level, I think some scientists compared it to kind of aircraft noise or something. The decibel level at the Nou Camp, every time Figo touched the ball, was off the scale, and it absolutely affected him. He probably had one of the worst games
Did he really? No wonder.
Of his life. It was memorable for many reasons, not many of them to do with the actual football. Yeah. But yeah, great player, good shout. Yeah.
I'm sorry to be predictable about this, but I've gone around the houses with this, and I actually thought about Figo as well, but I've gone for David Beckham. And actually, he's won a title, in Italy, France, England and America. Pretty impressive. And, again, for a Scotland fan to say this, I thought he was such a heartbeat in that England team full of superstars, and I actually felt that he was let down by some of the boys around him, but he always turned up. And that's the other thing I'd say about him. I've seen him a lot over the years. He always gave it absolutely everything. And again, I want a dead ball specialist in the team, and I don't think there are many better than him. Corners, free kicks, all of that. His delivery, his passing, his vision, and his engine, which was probably not something he was given enough credit for, is incredible.
He was a good captain.
That free kick, that free kick he scored against Greece. Oh, it was one of them most. Well. It's one of them moments, where you remember where you were. And you just, I remember where I was. I was in a bar in the Northeast, and I was watching it thinking, he's going to score. It was just one of them moments in your sporting life. You think, he's going to do it. And he delivered it perfect.
I was in a cupboard.
You were in a cupboard?
Doing your joinery.
I was in a cupboard. Not a Boris Becker cupboard. You got there before me. Not a Boris Becker cupboard. I was in a cupboard at the Millennium Stadium at Cardiff, having just covered a Wales international. And we were coming, getting out of the ground, and we were aware of what was happening at Old Trafford in this big game for England. And there was a security guy who had a little TV in his cupboard. Yeah. So about 4 of us piled into this cupboard to watch Beckham take this free kick, and the rest is history, as they say.
Yeah, and Ian's now got a small child from that.
That can't be small, would it? well, maybe it would be if it was one of mine.
Because Ian's small.
Yeah, it would be if it was one of mine. Yeah, exactly.
I didn't mean that.
My daughter's almost as tall as me, aren't she? She's only 6.
I've gone for Beckham, though. So Beckham's in my midfield. Let us know what you think, though.
I'm loving my team.
Yeah, your team's...
I'm loving my team.
I'm annoyed about how much I'm enjoying.
I'm loving my team already.
It's almost like you do this for a living. Please get in touch. What do you think about our selections? Whistleblowers@dailymail.com is the email. Social accounts, X, Blowers Pod, TikTok, Whistleblowers Podcast, Instagram, Whistleblowers Pod. Right, that's us, I think. We'll be back on Thursday for the next instalment of Whistleblowers. Until then, don't forget to follow us on socials, as I've just mentioned. And that leaves us one thing to do. Mr. Clattenburg, will you blow the full-time whistle, please? If you want to watch more episodes of Whistleblowers, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. We'll keep you up to date all the way through the summer with everything that's happening in the world of football.